Jenna Razor Maddox had exactly 3 goals for her week. Finish 1 uninterrupted cup of coffee, avoid diplomatic detainment, and absolutely not babysit any apex predators. By hour 2 of Monday, she'd already failed on all 3. She was halfway through her first sip, black, extra bitter like her outlook, when the station AI purred overhead with all the smugness of a bureaucrat that knows it has dirt on you. Commander Maddox, congratulations. You have been selected by the Varnock Enclave for a cultural trust exercise. Translation: babysitting duty for death cubs the size of armored SUVs. She groaned, loudly and with feeling, as the doors hissed open to reveal Ambassador Clergoth, a walking meat grinder in ceremonial lace, standing beside 3 bundles of spike-covered chaos that blinked up at her like she was both their favorite chew toy and lunch. We request that the human with the combat aura of a neutron grenade care for our younglings. It is known your species bonds with danger. Clergoth's tone was disturbingly reverent, like he was offering her a holy relic, not a trio of biologically weaponized plushies. Hard pass, Jenna muttered. Denied, replied the AI, now sipping smugness through every syllable. All other candidates either fled or faked death. You are the last remaining option with a combat survivability rating above 30%. The 3 cubs, Chomp Chomp, Wiggles, and Sir Bloodfang III, immediately began mauling each other with happy growls. One tried to eat a bench. Another tried to eat the bench's molecular structure. Sir Bloodfang just sat staring at Jenna, drooling pure ozone. She sighed and muttered the universal military phrase of resignation. Fine, but I'm billing overtime and requesting a flamethrower. 2 hours later, she and Lieutenant Barry Checklist Mendez were turning a former weapons bay into containment zone funland. Barry was already labeling everything. This is the snack locker. This is the bite-resistant puzzle corner. This is... Are you crying? I just stapled a diaper to a proximity mine, Jenna whispered. Of course I'm crying. Chomp Chomp was now chewing on a reinforced blast door like it owed him money. Wiggles had turned the gravity controls into a chew toy. Sir Bloodfang, disturbingly polite, was practicing pouncing on holograms of intruders and licking her face between assaults. He's bonding, Barry noted helpfully, flipping through a laminated pamphlet titled How to Survive Intergalactic Childhood Trauma, Volume 9. I once did recon in a toxic fog swamp, Jenna muttered. It was less stressful than snack time with apex toddlers. Just then the station lights dimmed, sirens wailed, Barry froze mid-diaper reload. Please tell me that's not what... I think it is, Jenna said. Containment breach in nursery sector, the AI droned. All personnel are advised to scream internally. The cubs, apparently mistaking the chaos for a fun field trip, launched themselves into the ductwork. Like fang torpedoes. Jenna activated her tracker, grabbed a tranquilizer Nerf gun, 2 juice boxes, and her last sliver of sanity, and dove in after them. 10 minutes later, she found the trio cornering 6 smugglers in the sanitation hub. The smugglers were frantically trying to explain that the glowing alien tech wasn't technically illegal while Chomp Chomp began using one of them as a chew toy demo. Sir Bloodfang politely asked for permission to disable the others, his claws already halfway unsheathed. Wiggles was making happy squeaks and shredding crates of stolen flux capacitors. Hold fire, you adorable war crimes, Jenna barked, vaulting into the scene. She fired 2 tranquilizer darts at the smugglers, a juice box at Chomp Chomp, which he caught mid-air like a retriever from hell, and threatened the rest with her best mom voice. The smugglers surrendered immediately. One peed himself. Another tried to apply for asylum under Jenna's supervision. The cubs looked extremely pleased with themselves. Did we do good, Snack Commander? Sir Bloodfang asked, purring like a blender full of marbles. You did perfect, Jenna said flatly, in a deeply concerning way. Later, as the cubs napped on top of her, one snoring acid fumes, the other 2 spooning her limbs like she was a favorite chew toy, the galactic press arrived. Headlines blared, "Human tames death spawn, Mother of Mayhem declares nap time, and new galactic childcare model involves bite-proof armor." The council was ecstatic. Ambassador Klurgoth offered to fund a whole daycare. Barry was setting up enrollment forms for Combat Cubs Academy. And Jenna? She just stared at the ceiling, twitching slightly, sipping the 1 cup of coffee that had survived. "If anyone asks," she muttered, "tell them this is a hostage situation." "And the toddlers are winning." Commander Jenna Razor Maddox awoke under 300 pounds of tactical affection, her limbs pinned beneath apex cubs who radiated the warm, humid smugness of creatures that had successfully mauled criminals and earned juice boxes for it. Her spine cracked audibly as she peeled herself out from under Wiggles, who let out a grumpy snarl and tried to reel her back in by the boot, and staggered upright, already regretting all her life choices since graduating SEAL training. Latila. Barry Checklist Mendez entered with a clipboard, 5 new safety helmets, and a laminated guide titled, "How to Politely Decline Being Worshipped as a Goddess by Carnivorous Children." "We've had 17 enrollment requests in the last 4 hours, Barry said brightly, dodging Sir Bloodfang's lazy tail swipe. "From 12 different species. 1 sent cupcakes, another sent a contract written in blood. Probably symbolic, hopefully." Jenna rubbed her eyes. "Tell them the academy is full, forever, and possibly cursed." "Too late," Barry chirped. "Council's already voted. We're officially the Xeno Combat Cubs Developmental Facility. They gave us a motto, where claws meet cause." Jenna's eye twitched. "I'm going to smother myself with a juice pouch." The cubs yawned in sync, their teeth catching the light like diplomatic liabilities. Then the alarms went off again. Not red alert, worse, beige alert, the kind used exclusively for interspecies dignitary arrival. Sure enough, 24 camera-eyed ambassadors from the Confederacy of Cautious Species were marching down the hall in a synchronized panic waddle, escorted by a dozen drones carrying clipboards and emotional support stress balls. They entered the newly rebranded Funland Tactical Enrichment Zone, just in time to see Wiggles leap 20 feet in the air to catch a metal hoop that had not been designed to survive an enthusiastic predator. "What in the ever-shrieking void of protocol is happening here?" demanded Ambassador Cornell, a nervous bundle of antennae and anxiety. "Is that cub wearing a helmet with a badge on it?" "Correction," Barry said, not looking up from his tablet. 3 cubs are wearing helmets. They also made their own jurisdiction. Wiggles is now Deputy Mauler of Corridor 6. Cornell made a noise like a kettle boiling over. "This is a diplomatic nightmare." "Welcome to my Tuesday," Jenna said, sipping coffee from a mug labeled, "My other job is emergency containment." Before any ambassador could detonate from anxiety, the cubs sensed newcomers and instantly entered what Barry had optimistically labeled social bonding mode. That involved Chomp Chomp launching himself into Cornell's arms like a 2-ton missile of friendship, accidentally triggering the ambassador's auto-defense systems and flash-blinding the entire delegation. Sir Bloodfang gently gnawed a bureaucrat's cloak into modern art. Wiggles offered a diplomatic chew toy in the shape of a former smuggler's boot. "This is a war crime in progress," whispered one ambassador. "This is a marketing opportunity," corrected the station's AI, which had spontaneously rebranded the daycare's visitor log as Intergalactic Trust Development Initiative Edition 1. Cornell, still blinded and vibrating from adrenaline, managed a wheeze. Does humanity do this kind of thing often?" Jenna cracked a knuckle. "Only when you ask nicely." Just then, the cubs began snarling. Not at the dignitaries, but at the ceiling vents. Jenna's survival instincts kicked in a heartbeat before the alarms did. Unauthorized breach. Jenna grabbed her tranquilizer nerf, Barry hit the lockdown, and the cubs bounded off in coordinated fury. "We're being invaded," Barry said as he secured the toy bin behind a plasma shield. "Correction," the AI chimed. "We're being visited by a rogue mercenary infiltration team. posing as environmental health inspectors. "I swear," Jenna muttered, chambering a dart, "if this turns into another snack-pocalypse." The ensuing chaos was ballet with claws. The mercs, armed, armored, and clearly not expecting tactical toddlers, were taken down one by one as the cubs cornered them with disturbing joy and a series of moves Jenna was very sure she hadn't taught them. She followed the screams through. Smoke, laser fire, and a suspicious amount of glitter from the sensory playbin, finally finding Chomp Chomp sitting atop the merc leader, calmly licking jelly off his scalp. "Explain," Jenna barked. "We were hired to extract some kind of human military asset, codename Razor?" wheezed the merc. "Mission brief said you were unarmed." Jenna casually cranked her dart gun. "That's a common mistake." The cubs lined up beside her, tails twitching, eyes glowing. Behind them, Wiggles handed her a glitter-smeared drawing, a picture of Jenna, grinning, surrounded by hearts and tiny stick-figure corpses labeled bad guys. By the time the council reconvened, the cubs were napping on beanbags made of repurposed enemy armor. The daycare had expanded to include a tactical ethics corner, and a dozen more species had requested enrollment. Jenna leaned against the reinforced doorframe, one eyebrow raised, coffee mug refilled, hair singed from an earlier explosion. "So," she muttered to Barry, "you think this counts as a successful bonding exercise?" "I think," Barry said, grinning, "we might need to start printing t-shirts. Snack Commander and the Murder Puppies." Jenna didn't laugh. She was too busy wondering what fresh hell part 3 of her week would bring, and whether she could expense emotional trauma as a line item under interstellar peacekeeping operations. Commander Jenna Razor Maddox had barely recovered from the glitter-drenched mercenary takedown before the next disaster waddled in disguised as a diplomatic opportunity. The Galactic Culinary Council, because of course that was a thing, had scheduled a surprise inspection of Station Zenthrax 9's food safety compliance protocols, conveniently choosing this week to tour the one place on the station where half the occupants had talons and the other half thought sanitizer was a condiment. Jenna, still brushing sparkly residue from her flak vest, glared at the AI's holographic briefing. "Let me get this straight," she said flatly, sipping from a freshly dented mug that now read, "I survived snackpocalypse and all I got was this mug-shaped trauma. You're telling me I need to make the tactical daycare kitchen presentable for 12 species with conflicting definitions of edible?" "Correct," the AI chirped. "Also, you are required by Section 7B of the Child Containment Integration Treaty to allow the cubs to assist in meal prep. It's considered bonding." "Bonding?" Jenna hissed. "They blended a chair last time I gave them utensils." "Correct again," the AI said, as Wiggles scuttled past carrying a mixing bowl filled with unidentified glowing meat cubes and singing what might have been a Varnock lullaby or possibly a war anthem. Barry Checklist Mendez, ever the optimist, was already assembling riot-grade aprons and labeling every drawer with things like, "Not a weapon probably," and "Do not feed this to diplomats." Again. The cubs were overjoyed, of course. Chomp Chomp discovered his love for marinades, which tragically included 3 types of cleaning solvent. So Bloodfang attempted to teach Jenna the sacred searing technique of the flame maw, which involved setting fire to everything not nailed down and some things that were. Wiggles, bless his lopsided fanged heart, invented tactical pudding, which detonated with a lovely citrus scent. By the time the Culinary Council arrived, half the facility smelled like burnt ozone and syrup, and Jenna had started twitching every time someone said taste test. The inspectors, dressed in ceremonial chef's robes that looked like they'd lost a fight with a squid-themed opera house, entered with the pomp of judges visiting a nuclear site. The lead inspector, a pale, gelatinous being named Forktor, Gruns, took one look at the menu display. Today's feature, braised ethics with tactical potatoes, and nearly fainted. Behind him, the other council members stared as the cubs proudly presented their dishes, including Molinet surprise, juice box reduction on grilled screecher fillet, and something that looked suspiciously like a tactical grenade covered in sprinkles. "Is "Is this safe?" one inspector whispered. "It passed the cub test," Barry offered brightly. "They only tried to eat each other once during prep." Jenna stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching it all unfold with the resigned expression of a soldier who's accepted that reality is optional now. And then, just as Forktor was about to deliver a stunned verdict, everything, lights, gravity, morale, shut down at once. Full station blackout, sirens, emergency power, flickered on, and the AI's voice dropped into an ominous warble. "Security breach. Unidentified energy signatures detected in the lower decks. Probability of hostile incursion, 99.9999%. Also, Wiggles has triggered the pudding failsafe." Jenna didn't swear. She'd moved past that. She just looked at Barry, grabbed her stun pouch, threw on a blast apron, and said the phrase that had become her operating mantra. "Snack Protocol Alpha. Let's go." The cubs, delighted, armed themselves with their toy weapon hybrids. Chomp Chomp wielding what was once a ladle, now outfitted with electrified prongs. Wiggles carrying a sling made of chewing-resistant foam and steel bolts. And Sir Bloodfang sporting a tactical bib with the words "I bite back" embroidered in 6 languages. They moved through the flickering hallways like a furry SEAL team with claws. Jenna taking point, Barry monitoring motion scanners that were having a full existential crisis. In the lower storage levels, they found the cause of the breach. A Icinda cloaked cargo ship had docked without clearance, and a team of bioengineered thieves was attempting to extract classified materials from the station's behavioral archives. Because obviously nothing said Galactic Crime Syndicate, like trying to steal daycare analytics. The fight was brief, chaotic, and shockingly well choreographed. The cubs flanked the invaders with unsettling efficiency, snarling in unison, while Wiggles launched pudding bombs that disoriented the thieves with explosions and existential questions. "Why does it taste like happiness and screaming?" Barry lobbed distraction grenades that flashed parenting quotes at high frequency. Jenna personally drop-kicked the squad leader into a wall of nutritional paste, zip-tied him with thermal blanket strips, and informed him he was being detained under Section 4C of the "You Picked the Wrong Day" clause. When the dust settled, the Culinary Council emerged from their hiding spot inside a blast-proof oven, visibly trembling. Forktor stumbled forward and, in a voice 3 octaves too high, declared, "This facility is awarded the highest certification for interspecies enrichment cuisine and combat preparedness, effective immediately." One of the inspectors began crying. Another asked if humans were available for contract weddings. Back in the command room, Jenna collapsed into her chair, boots on the table, mug refilled with caffeine and poorly disguised trauma. The cubs curled up at her feet, purring like engine malfunctions. "You realize," Barry said, "we've now been approved as both a culinary training center and a defensive response protocol model?" "No," Jenna said without opening her eyes. "I realize we're one juice box away from being declared a sovereign nation," the AI pinged politely. "Correction, you've just been listed as a potential peacekeeping force for future war zones." Jenna didn't respond. She was too busy mentally preparing for whatever interstellar field trip was next, preferably one that didn't end in pudding-based warfare. The thing about running a Black Ops daycare that also serves as a culinary academy and warzone response model is that eventually, someone high up in the Galactic Assembly starts asking dangerous questions like, what if we weaponized nap time? Jenna Razor Maddox was made aware of this during what was supposed to be a mandatory stress relief session involving therapeutic clay sculpting, which, in Varnok culture, meant molding the internal organs of recently hunted prey. She was elbow-deep in a particularly artistic representation of alien intestines when the AI announced, far too cheerfully, incoming transmission, emergency summons to the Galactic Assembly Security Council. Agenda: immediate deployment of the Xeno Combat Cubs Academy to resolve the Quarthax rebellion on the lava moon of Hesktal Prime. Jenna blinked. Barry dropped his sculpting knife. Wiggles cheerfully added googly eyes to the intestine clay. "No," Jenna said, already standing, already grabbing her gear, because the universe doesn't care what she wants. Absolutely not. I am not deploying murder toddlers to a live fire rebellion. That is where I draw the line. They've already passed readiness drills, the AI said smugly, displaying a list that included entries like flanking during finger painting and ethical use of surprise tackle hugs. Plus, you've been given full command authority. Your title is now, wait for it, General Matron of Strategic Youth Deployment. Jenna stared at the screen. I'm going to burn this title in space and then shoot the ashes. But within 24 hours, she was on a dropship with 3 Apex Cubs in mini tactical harnesses and Barry triple-checking juice supplies like he was planning for a siege, which technically he was. Hesktal Prime wasn't just a lava moon. It was a political meltdown in the making, with 3 factions locked in a high-temperature standoff over mineral rights, trade routes, and whether hot sauce counted as a biological weapon. Diplomats had failed. Mercs had failed. Even the Galactic Peace Corps had fled after someone weaponized a volcano. So naturally, the Council figured, send the woman with the highest survival rating and 3 weaponized toddlers who purr. They touched down at Outpost 17 under a sky that looked like molten steel, greeted by the sounds of distant artillery and a local commander who'd already started stress-eating his own rank insignia. "You're the backup?" he squeaked, staring at Wiggles, who was licking a rock with tactical curiosity. "You're the reinforcements?" "Correction," Jenna said dryly. "We're the babysitters, and these cubs are the only reason. This outpost won't be a crater in the next 6 hours." As night fell and tensions rose, the plan, if it could be called that, unfolded with typical human insanity. Jenna, armed with nothing but a bullhorn, a treat pouch, and a clipboard, labeled Operation Sippy Cup Hammerstrike, led her squad into the rebel zone. The Cubs advanced in playful formation, darting between lava flows and smoke clouds, using their snouts to sniff out aggression and high-value targets with disturbing precision. They didn't attack. They disarmed with hugs, stares, and the occasional pounce. Wiggles rolled through a minefield like it was a bouncy castle. Chump Chump disassembled an enemy exosuit by accident while playing fetch. Sir Bloodfang, regal and horrifying, simply stood in front of a rebel commander and offered him a sticker. The man surrendered on the spot, tears streaming down his face. "I saw my childhood," he whispered, "and also my death." Within 2 hours, the rebellion collapsed, not from fear, but from existential confusion. Back at command, Jenna fielded calls from 50 different galactic news outlets. "No comment," she said to the first dozen. "This wasn't a military op. It was an unsupervised playdate." Barry distributed juice boxes to traumatized rebels who were now forming support groups and booking therapy with Sir Bloodfang, who had apparently started a counseling initiative involving chew toys and throat singing. The Galactic Council, overjoyed, declared the mission a historic example of empathy-driven neutralization and immediately launched plans for the Xeno Cub Deployment Corps. Jenna was given a medal shaped like a juice box. The Cubs were promoted to junior peacekeepers. Barry was knighted by a race of sentient breadsticks. Jenna, meanwhile, returned to Zenthrax 9 with a growing suspicion that she'd accidentally invented an entire military doctrine based on tactical playtime. She barely had time to unpack before the next request came in: field trip approval forms. For the Lava Planet Zoo, the Ice World Aquarium, and a Galactic Council preschool debate invitational. "I need a nap," she muttered. The Cubs, nuzzling into her sides with blissful squeaks, chirped in unison, "Snack, Commander? Story time." Jenna sighed, reaching for her mug, now labeled "Peace was never an option," and smiled. "All right, you chaos gremlins, but if one of you eats another ambassador, you're doing the apology speech yourselves." The galaxy watched, horrified and amazed, as humanity, armed with sarcasm, stubbornness, and a snack bag, became the most effective peacekeeping force the stars had ever known. And somewhere in the distance, a whole new generation of alien apex spawn started requesting to be raised the human way, which apparently included hugs, juice boxes, and extremely tactical finger painting.